Republican Senator Bill Cassidy claims Trump's rhetoric is concerning to some voters. Trump is defending himself. Watch this.
We can talk about, I want to be politically correct, but we have people coming in from prisons and jails, long-term murderers. They're all being released into our country. These are murderers. These are people at the highest level of crime. It also gets people thinking about very important issues, that if you don't use certain rhetoric, if you don't use certain words that maybe are not very nice words, nothing will happen.
Senator John Barrasso, Republican from the great state of Wyoming, joins me now. Mr. Senator, I was going to run a different soundbite where he'd used the word bloodbath. That was, the media took that out of context because he was really talking about the car industry and not about something that might happen after the election. What do you think of Trump's language? Should he use an expression like bloodbath?
Well, to me, this was dishonest reporting on the part of the media, and the Democrats and the media set their hair on fire when he used that phrase, and which is why so many people, certainly in Wyoming and across the country, just don't trust the media when it comes to their reporting on President Trump.
He was clearly talking about... Or do they not like his language? I mean, they're going to pick up on his language.
That's what they're always looking for, something. They're looking for one little nuance, and he was clearly talking about electric vehicles. And the reason it's so critical is this week, the Biden administration is going to come out with new regulation, making it much harder to buy a gas-powered vehicle, almost forcing you to buy an electric vehicle, something you don't want, can't afford, too expensive. All of those things certainly don't work for the people of Wyoming. Look, this is part of this administration's terrible mistake. They're on this kind of suicide mission in the name of climate change. They're not doing anything to help the climate, and they're sure doing a lot to hurt the economy.
Do you sometimes wish, I'm going to press the issue, forgive me, Mr. Senator, I'm going to press it. Do you sometimes think that maybe it would be better if Mr. Trump scaled back the language just a tad?
The former president speaks for himself, and I have endorsed him, and we need to replace the guy that's there now. We have good cause to fire Joe Biden. People think the country's heading in the wrong direction because it is. The prices are up. We have a president now, open border, high prices. People are paying 21% more. That's what I heard about at the grocery store on Saturday in Casper, Wyoming. The high price of things, the open border, 9 million illegal immigrants in this country. We need somebody that can get us back on track.
I think you should go to the State Department because you're a wonderful diplomat. I'm serious about that, but I'm going to move on to something else. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has issued a sharp rebuttal to Senator Schumer, who had called for new leadership in the Jewish state. Watch this briefly. Roll it.
I think Schumer's statements are wholly inappropriate. I think we're not a banana republic. The people of Israel will choose when they'll have elections, who they'll elect, and it's not something that will be foisted upon us. That, it's wrong to try to replace the elected leaders of a sister democracy and a staunch American ally at any time, but especially during the time.
Mr. Senator, is the GOP now the pro-Israel party in America?
Well, we certainly support our most trusted ally in the Middle East, Israel. We see that across the board with the Republicans. The Democrats have moved in a different direction. So many of their extremists supporting Hamas right now. I was on the floor to talk about Schumer's comments right after he had made those comments. Completely out of line, and I think it was because Joe Biden didn't have the guts to do it himself. So he sends his water boy to make these statements, to go after our trusted ally at a time that is absolutely wrong. Israel is going to win the war. They need to eliminate Hamas, and then we move on from there.
That statement from Senator Schumer was really more like the election in Michigan than it was in Israel, right?
Well,
domestic politics created this.
Yes. Israel is a democracy. They have a right to choose who they want. The Democrats are just scared right now that they're losing their far left, those who support Hamas. Biden's afraid that he's going to lose the election because of this, but he's turning against our closest ally in the Middle East, who has been there for us from the beginning.
The GOP is the staunch ally of Israel to this day.
We support the people of Israel. We support the right for them to defend themselves. We're going to continue to support that effort.
And you want to see Israel go after Hamas and finish them?
I think until Hamas is completely eliminated, the people of Israel long-term will not be safe.
Got it. Donald Trump just endorsed you for Senate Minority Whip. Who are you supporting to replace Mitch McConnell?
Well, we have strong candidates. That election's
You're
not
a diplomat.
That election's not for 8 months. We have a much more important election before that, and that's the election November 5th, where I'm going to do everything I can to get a majority in the United States Senate, Donald Trump back in the White House, and fire Joe Biden and every one of his enablers, who are all these Democrat senators who vote with him.
Forgive me for asking, but you come from the great state of Wyoming, which is scenically beautiful and very peaceful. What on earth are you doing in New York City?
It's always better in Wyoming, always. I'd invite all of your viewers to come. Jackson Hole is great for skiing right now, and the whole state is absolutely magnificent.
How many people are in Wyoming? It's only 400,000 people in Wyoming.
About 500,000 people, 100,000 square miles, 5 people per square mile.
Wow.
It's just about right.
We've got as many migrants as that in New York State.
Well, you can keep them in New York. That's what's happening. Well, we're not a sanctuary state. We're not a sanctuary city. People are really concerned. 9 million illegal immigrants now in the United States under this Joe Biden open border policy. This is a threat. These people are criminals, drug dealers, many of them on the terrorist suspect list. We have to worry about the security of our nation, and border security is national security. We don't have it with Joe Biden and the Democrats.
Please stick around in New York for a little longer. Senator, we always appreciate you being here. Thanks a lot.
Great
sir.
to be with you. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.